Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Shift AI podcast. In this special episode, we're going to give you a peek into a micro version of what we call here an AI dream session, which is the unique project discovery process that we use here at Blue Fox Labs to uncover pain points, identify opportunities, and architect a real AI driven solution. Our guest today is Rachel Pressdee, a business attorney at Dinsmore Law Firm, and she's going to walk us through the challenges of her field, managing overwhelming workloads, building strong relationships, and delivering exceptional results in the legal profession. Together, we're going to explore how AI can tackle some of their inefficiencies, freeing up time for what truly matters for them, which is trust, connection, and creating impact.
All right, folks, welcome to our first attempt at recording what we call at Blue Fox Labs and Blue Fox Insights an AI dream session, which is us engaging with somebody that's in the workforce, in the field, and we're just trying to get an understanding of how their job works, maybe how their field works, and then think about how AI might intersect and be helpful in those realms. I'm Joe Yoon. I'm the CEO of Blue Fox Labs and one of the co-founders of Blue Fox Insights. Joining me today is Brian Pasquini, who is a chief technologist at Blue Fox Labs, Pete Ondish, who is the chief scientist at Blue Fox Labs, and then our guest for today, our honorable guest, is Rachel Pressdee, who works for Dinsmore. And I'd like for Rachel to say hello and give us a little intro about herself and her role at Dinsmore.
Thanks, Joe. Yes, my name is Rachel Pressdee. I work at Dinsmore. We are a full-service law firm located coast to coast. I work out of our Pittsburgh office. I am a business attorney, so I do a variety of legal work for business owners, ranging from helping them start up entities to helping them manage contracts, review terms and conditions, and also to assist in any transactional needs they need. So we help sell companies, we help buy companies, we help merge companies. Pretty much anything a business owner could need legal-wise, we can assist with.
Excellent. Thank you, Rachel. And just as a side note, Dinsmore is our legal representation at Blue Fox Labs and Blue Fox Insights. So we have a very close relationship with them. We're very excited because law is definitely a field where many folks have said that AI could transform the legal field. But the real question is, what does that mean? In what way? And how could it do this? And so that'll be a lot of the focus of today. So I'm going to push it to Pete. Pete, maybe if you can get us started with some questions that we can parse through. And this is going to be completely free-flowing. And so just so the listeners know, this is typically how we process through what we call an AI dream session so that we can make, hopefully, our customers' dreams come true. So, Pete, go ahead, my brother.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. And thank you for joining us again, Rachel. As Joe mentioned, this is kind of our process, everybody, for what we call a dream session. Usually these are much longer and more in depth, but we're doing sort of a rapid dream session here, the goals of which are threefold. Number one, we're going to talk with Rachel and learn a little bit more about their particular business, think about, what are the kind of their goals and initiatives they're working on, and what are the different things that we could potentially do with AI to overcome a problem or lean into an opportunity. And then we're also going to discuss a little bit more about what a particular solution architect would look like for that proposed problem. So with that kind of three-step understanding in mind, let's first kind of learn about the business. Let's then kind of dive into a problem or an opportunity. And then three, let's kind of do a quick and dirty solution architect. Rachel, we'd love to learn a little bit more about kind of like, your business today, your role, and then kind of what your goals and initiatives are, in the near future.
Sure. So our daily load as business attorneys can vary. We are doing work that is either for an established company or helping to set up a company. So honestly, the day looks different every day. Some days I am reviewing contracts. So I'm going through either revisions another company has made to our standard contracts or a contract that a company was provided just to make sure that, the terms and conditions line up with what is industry standard, what our team expects, just make sure that everything is fair. Other days, I'm helping structure the organization of the company. So, how is the management
Mm,
team run? Who has what duties? And then, other days, I'm deep in a transaction where we may be reviewing a whole lot of documents that have been provided to look for pain points or look for issues that could reduce a purchase price. And then just also structuring the transaction. How is it going to be? Are you selling your entire business? Are you selling a part of your business? Are you selling it for cash, for a note, for equity in the new company that's coming in? So there's a lot of moving parts every day, and there's a lot of different kind of tasks we do and ways I could see that there could be improvement, especially in efficiencies that I think in the future AI will be able to help us with.
oh, well, it seems like a pretty good jumping off point then. So I do wonder, like, what do you see as being some of those inefficiencies that, let's say, keep you up at night?
So I'd say what keeps me up the most at night is just not being able to get back to clients as quickly as possible. So all of that comes down to kind of time management and efficiency. So I've been thinking mostly from starting our conversations when we first started working with Blue Fox Labs, how exactly AI could help. I think in the legal world, there's always a fear from the lawyer side that the idea is that AI will replace us.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of thinking that we do that I'm not sure I want uh, technology to do for me.
Right.
But there are definitely ways I can see it helping if it's helping manage my task load of, what do I need to do? What's the most efficient way of getting projects completed? Or if it's helping go through the massive amounts of information and data that we receive about a company to help parse out and figure out what are the focus points in a contract? What are the red flags in a deal? So I see a lot of ways that the integration of AI could help us sleep better at night.
Yeah, so just kind of a couple points there that you brought up, Rachel, that directly resonate with my immediate experience the last couple days. First of all, I live and breathe AI. I use AI for everything that I know how to use it for and more, hopefully. But I had to write a very sensitive email to a group of folks last night. I just got back from LA, so I'm on Pacific time, so I was up till 3 a.m. last night. Might as well write a very sensitive email. And as I was crafting that email, I mean, ChatGPT can create emails all day and you can edit emails all day. But the reality was, this was an email to a group of people that I sincerely care about, and that it's a very nuanced kind of communication. And I realized that this is something where AI can really never help with. I mean, maybe it could logistically somehow figure out how to create this really nuanced email to people that know and that I know that have a history and whatnot, a good history. But at the end of the day, the relationships are so important in business. And so the AI will never be able to take over that part. And so I agree with you that when lawyers say that they fear AI taking their jobs, I don't think that AI is going to take their jobs in the sense of taking away the relationships and the importance of relationships and the importance of fostering those relationships through things like communication. Um, I don't think that's going to go away. So that's safe, I think, for all fields that are relationship based. Now, the thing I do resonate with is that there are absolutely tasks that probably keep you up at night, not necessarily because you're worried, but literally because there's so much work to do that you're going to sleep late because you've got to process through all this stuff, right? And so I'd love to dig into that a little bit more with regards to, maybe give us some of your thoughts on what are things that you do, and you don't have to be specific as to the details of the content, but what are the tasks that you do that you end up thinking, man, this sucks, right? And this takes so long, and I wish that there was a better way. We'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Oh, yeah, I have several examples of tasks like that. The one thing I've been focusing on recently, as attorneys, we get so many emails. I probably have 150 unread emails in my inbox right now. And one of the most time consuming tasks is parsing through those and figuring out what it is that I need to be working on. What is like, and keeping that kind of task list. I write so many lists. I handwrite lists. I have lists in emails. I have lists everywhere. And I've been trying to find kind of the right solution to help find an AI integration that can help me manage my task list in a better way. And that's like the most basic thing right now that I've been thinking about. But other ways, like I was saying, we get a lot of data from companies. So when we're going through a transaction, and any person who owns a business that has sold or bought a business will understand the pain that I'm about to speak about when collecting diligence. So we or the counsel on the other side ask for a ton of information about your company, probably contracts that you didn't even think about keeping. And we get all of this in a repository that we then need to parse through and figure out what's important. And that can take a lot of time and that takes a lot of manpower. And for business owners who have done this, they know that that also takes a lot of billable time. So there's definitely ways to make that more efficient. And right now we have worked with a program that we can upload documents to, and it'll kind of read through them as long as they're clear and a good scan, and point out certain things. What are your assignment provisions for a contract? So if you sell your company, does that contract go with it? Do you have to get consent? Do you have to notify anybody? Do you have exclusivity clauses in your contracts? You can only sell to certain people, or restrictions in areas. So we use a program right now that can pick out some of that and create a report for you that then needs to be obviously checked and looked through. But it's a stepping stone that helps us kind of speed up that process.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit more deeply. So this program that you have, which seems amazing because it at least cuts down a lot of time with regards to giving you summarized points, how well does it work in the sense that, let's say that either through false positives or it's not actually picking up some things, right? So it's giving you false negatives. Like, and I'm sure you can't pull out an exact statistic, but just out of just your feel, is this thing pretty much all the way helpful, or is it,
It's only partially helpful.
Okay.
There's a couple setbacks to it. One is it needs to be a clear document. A lot of times we will get a document that's maybe 30 years old. It's been scanned by a scanner back years ago. It's not clear. It's crooked. You need to have a human set of eyes kind of go through that because it just doesn't read it right. One of the other issues is it's not very intuitive or user-friendly program. So there are limited people who know how to truly use it to its full potential. And it does pick up the wrong information sometimes. And if you aren't trained as a lawyer in what it is you're truly looking for, sometimes those false positive or false negatives can really derail your understanding of what it is you're trying to review these documents for. So it can help save time, especially when you have maybe 100, 200 contracts you need to look through. It can at least, we'll say, probably make it through about 75% of those. And it at least will tag and highlight in the document kind of where it thinks this information it's looking for is. So you can go back through and check it, but it still doesn't, I don't find it, I'm not confident enough in the system to only use that program. I make sure that the rest of the deal team is also kind of double checking that information. But it can help organize some.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just out of curiosity, when you say the rest of the deal team is double checking that information, does that also mean that they're reading through every single thing just in case? Or what does that look like?
Ideally, but that's usually not.
Yeah.
Not timely. So some of it is more of a spot checking. There's some consistency across legal documentation where once you've reviewed a ton of contracts, I've been doing this for 4 years as an attorney, and previous to that, I was a legal assistant and also doing some of this contract review. So I know where I'm looking for certain things, so I can kind of do a spot check. But I mean, the best way to make sure that everything is captured is to have somebody who knows what they're looking for actually read through the document.
Hmm.
Or at least skim each line to kind of pick out the keywords, because anyone who has read a contract knows that legalese is not something that's fun to read through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm already kind of forming an idea of how, in this example, Gen AI could help at least move it a little bit further in its efficacy of a solution. But I'm going to hold on solutioning for now, and just so that we can hear more. But that's really helpful. It's helpful to know that you've got this whole deal team that's they've got you have software, but the software is not perfect, and so as much time as you have available, you're going to do as close to a manual check as you can. But then
Mhm.
because time is limited, you can't do a full manual check. You have to just skim as much as possible. So okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Rachel, I was wondering if you could follow up and, when we think about the types of ways that eh, we could solution something to make your life better, we oftentimes think about like what are the two biggest pain points or time sucks, and what are the two biggest like things that they make you feel really good that you wish you could do like a lot better, because it's such like a great part of your day-to-day work, whether it be like kind of supporting a relationship or making you create something that's just like better, like if you're producing something. What would you say are your like two biggest pain points? We kind of talked about like sorting, but I'm wondering if there are like specific things within that, either sorting emails or kind of going through legal documents that you say, boy, these two things are really my biggest pain points. And I also wonder about two of the things that you feel like you're the most invested in, that you really care about, that you see as like AI potentially supercharging. And maybe we can do like a minute on each of those things, just so we can kind of have a broader overview of the different kinds of opportunity areas that might exist within your day to day.
Yeah, that's a little tough. I think one of the so because what I do can range in so many ways depending on what the daily activities are. I think about it not so much as what are the biggest two pain points, but maybe what I hate doing the most.
That's another way to think of it. Yeah.
So going back to this transactional work, one of the things that a purchase agreement has a section of kind of promises, the reps and warranties. So the business owner is saying this list of stuff is true. And one of the things we have to do is go through each section with the business owner and discuss whether or not we need to list out any exceptions to that statement. And these statements can be 3 pages long, about some, statutes related to employee benefits. And one of the toughest parts of a transaction is getting on the phone with the business owner and doing a 3-hour walkthrough of, I'm going to read this and I'm going to ask you if it's true. And one of the things I was recently thinking about while watching some commercial for the new Apple AI summarization programs they have is it'd be great to use AI to summarize those reps and warranties in layman's terms in a way that I could have more of a conversation with the client to figure out what we need to go through, instead of this painful 3-hour meeting that by the end they're sick of listening to my voice. And like that's something that all kind of attorneys at my year level in this transactional space will probably agree that is one of their least favorite things to do, because you're kind of losing your relationship with that client. By the end, they're so sick of you asking questions.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah.
there comes a lot of we already talked about that, or I don't know. And if we could lessen the burden on the business owner and on the attorney of going through that section, I think it would make me happy.
Yeah. I love that. And especially because even if it's not saving you like, tremendous amounts of it. I mean, 3 hours is substantial, but if it's not saving you, 20, 30, 40 hours, whatever, over like the span of a month, like the quality of that time that you're getting back seems really significant, especially if the alternative is this really difficult relationship altering conversation that you can have with some of these clients. Okay. So that's number one. for things that you
Wait,
hate.
can I just ask a really quick follow-up question with that? Is the owner the only person that can answer those questions, or typically are there other people in a company that can answer those questions?
Yeah, usually it's a multi-person call that we're
Okay.
on. So
Okay,
we'll
perfect.
have whoever is the kind of lead on the transaction of management of the company. So some of it is definitely going to be owner based because they might be the only ones with the answers. But a lot of times, kind of the CEO or the president or just the operational manager will participate in those calls as well.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, so following up, the second thing that you hate, Rachel.
uh, let's see. I think one of the other things that I think is a detriment for attorneys is that there are so many industry specific points that we don't have access, like we don't have basic knowledge of or a deep knowledge of. So when you are working on, for instance, selling a company, some of the market variables of your specific industry can really come into play. So just from a very high level overview, a purchase price is usually derived from a multiple of EBITDA, which we don't need to get into what EBITDA is, but that multiple matters. Is it 5? Is it 3? Is it 10? Obviously, the higher the multiple, the bigger your purchase price is going to be. Each industry is specific. So having kind of a database that is constantly checking on what the current market standard is for that industry, whether it being just as simple as this EBITDA multiple, but also other industry specific knowledge. So being able to create kind of a database that we can just reference quickly, I think would also speed up the negotiation process in a transaction, but also give us more credibility to our clients because of course we always want to be perceived as an expert, even though we may have never worked with a small arms manufacturer before, but now we are. So we want to know some specifics about that industry that takes some manpower and some time to do the research and try to find that information.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, and just really quickly for our listeners, EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And what that basically means is how much is the company making at the end of the day? Because profit is actually, you can do different ways of accounting that makes profit look in different forms. And so you just want to know at the end of the day, how much is this company really making? And then you multiply that by a certain number, and that becomes the valuation of the company, how much you are willing to buy that company for, how much that person is willing to sell the company for. So just throwing that out there as a clarifier.
Cool. So we've gone over a couple of things that you hate. What about the things that you really love? You say, not only do I definitely not want AI to take this part of my job off of my plate, but I really would love to see ways that it could potentially enhance the way that I do this and to make me better at it.
The relationships with the client is definitely probably the number one thing. So my background coming into law is varied. I started working in the restaurant industry. I've been a bartender, I've been a server, I've been a bar and restaurant manager. So relationship building is a big part of that. I had good relationships not only with the customers, my fellow employees, any person who walked into the restaurant. There's this one-off relationship building every time. So I bring that to developing relationships with my clients now. I want to know more about you, why you made the business you made, why you want to sell, what you want to do with the rest of your lives. Like I like learning, personally kind of getting involved with my clients, knowing who they are. I don't think AI can take that. And
of course, yeah.
I wouldn't want it to. Like I wouldn't want to take away that communication, being the one kind of getting on calls with the client, talking to them, meeting them. I know I could use some AI tools to help generate my emails, make them sound more professional, things like that. I could just, add in a couple keywords of what I want to say. But kind of as Joe was pointing out earlier with the email to the people that he's really close to, even with the clients, like I want them to feel my personal touch when I'm communicating with them.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Totally. are there certain aspects of the relationship, like in terms of like what you do and how you interact with them? Do you think, God, this could be better? Or, oh, I wish I could have maybe supported them better in this way?
Um, Sometimes it's just having, I'm going to say again, like a database of the knowledge.
Mm,
So obviously, every time I talk to them, I'm learning something different. So having a way to track everything. So it's, I always say, I wish I could Google search my brain, but just being able to, I guess, add notes to myself that I can easily add about having a call with somebody, and then being able to reference easily, to
mm.
remember all of the details. And there's definitely some parts of the communication that aren't as fun, that AI could take over, like collecting on bills and stuff like that. But
Hmm. Yeah,
we use
makes
some
a lot of
programs,
sense.
I think, for that already.
But also focusing on the relationship side of it, being able to get through that massive amount, to sort through that massive amount of data, to kind of bubble up what the essence is and the important points are, seems like that would help accelerate your relationship with that client. Also, timeliness, being able to, and I'm sure you, just like the rest of us, just get inundated with the number of emails that we get, and be able to sort through that mass amount of data as well. So I think that may be one of the places that there may be some opportunity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I was saying is we collect all this information usually at this initial start of the engagement. We want to know, like, if you have an entity already formed, we want to know, what documents you have on that, your formation documents. We're going to research your website to kind of learn about what your business is doing. So having the ability to have that kind of automated, and having something else reviewing and collecting that information and creating this kind of database of useful information to help build the relationship. And anything that's time saving, a client's gonna appreciate.
Well, and I think a client would also really appreciate timeliness and responses. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that there would be an added benefit where it may not be composing the emails for you, but it may be giving you all the context you need to compose your email to be able to respond to that client in a timely manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that was something I've kind of been looking at on my own, is what tools are out there now that I can integrate into my handwritten task lists, to instead have something to help kind of remind me, of what I'm behind on, what has been a couple days, what emails I haven't responded to. Just some kind of robotic personal assistant is what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to throw out this for our listeners again, that was the first time Brian was talking, so you're probably wondering who is that voice. That was Brian Pasquini. So FYI, since you don't see video, this is the audio form. So just FYI, that was Brian, chief technologist, smart guy.
Our technology wizard.
Yes,
The wizard.
literally a Jedi.
So, what other maybe opportunities do you feel like there would be to really enhance something that you love about your job? And relationships are pretty general, so I'd love to get like kind of specific into a thing that you like concretely do.
Yeah, and what would make it more fun and rewarding for you, right? Which, by the way, just so that our listeners know, I mean, Rachel is just such a personable and character-filled person. It's a joy. It's like friends. It's not really like business. And so it makes total sense that she's saying that the relationship is so important. So Rachel, you're already relationally forward in who you are, but what would make you more excited about your job?
Well, I think kind of always going back to the efficiency and time saving aspects of how I think AI can help us, saving time on doing some of the more mundane tasks that could be automated just provides us more opportunity to build those relationships, that I have more
Mm,
time to network and go to events and meet new people, or spend time being able to, for clients who do, I know now we're very much in a like technology world where no one meets in person, but when they do want to, sometimes it's always easier to throw a Zoom or a WebEx or Teams meeting on a calendar and be like, okay, well, then it's just going to be an hour. If someone comes to the office, maybe you're going to take them to lunch or whatever, and that you build such more of a relationship with that. The other attorney that I work with at Dinsmore a lot, he and I always talk about this, is if we have more capabilities of we just think of it as having a larger team to kind of help do more of the tasks so we can focus more on the development of the relationships, developing new relationships, doing more things like this, even of being able to, participate in this podcast and talk to people who have more or less become my friends, just from working together and having opportunities to kind of be more of an ambassador for my firm, my job, what I do. Like, I enjoy doing those things. So it would be nice to not have to spend 10 hours in front of my computer a day and have some free time to go out and kind of expand the business and expand the relationships.
What's your favorite meeting?
No, meetings aren't my favorite.
No. I mean, I don't mean Zoom meeting. I mean, what's your favorite, interaction that you get to have? It doesn't have to be a meeting, but so for example, we at the company here, we're in meetings all the time and they're not all great, but that's just the nature of life. Sometimes though, we get to have, dare I say, not a meeting, but a coming together that feels really amazing. And it makes me think maybe there's opportunities, if you save a lot of time, to have more of those, wow, this was a really important meeting for us to have. I think that we really kind of transformed our relationship, the way we do business with each other. For us, we have a lot of I think these moments when we do quarterly meetings. So the company here, every quarter we get together in person and we have these kind of review sessions about how we've performed, what we want to do going forward. We kind of celebrate our successes. We maybe kind of set new milestones, things we would like to accomplish for the future. It's also a time for us to come together and think about what our goals and values are. And I just find that to be a really amazing part of the business I didn't realize I would love so much. So if you were to tell me hey, I could save you so much time doing these mundane things, you would have maybe not quarterly conversations about the things. Maybe you would have 2 a quarter. I would say, oh, that's awesome. Because these conversations, I do feel really kind of move me in a way that's always for the better. So I wonder if you have a particular coming together that you would like to have more of with your clients, that in particular you would like to see if you were to save so much time with AI. Does that make sense, the way I phrase that?
Yeah. That makes more sense than just what kind of meetings do I like. So I can think of this in 2 ways. So one is the client relationship and building, which also I'm going to say extends also to what referral sources. So people who will help, we will refer work and clients to each other, but then also internally with the firm. So we have kind of how you were saying with your quarterly meetings. So on the client side of things, I enjoy going to kind of more networking style events where you have a lot of people in the room and you can kind of go around and talk to each other. I go to luncheons that are for corporate service providers. So, I'm there with accountants and insurance brokers, financial advisors, and you always learn something there because you learn about things that they're doing in their industry that can help you with your clients. And that's how you build these relationships to get other clients. And I see that does take some time from my day, obviously. So I try to make sure that I do go to these events because I think that they are good for not only my professional development, but just also good for my soul to get out there and talk to other people.
Yeah.
But not other attorneys won't want to do that because it adds more time to their day. Right. So you have to do all of the legal work and then you also need to try to get out there and meet clients and talk to people. And that's a struggle for some people. So finding ways to expedite what you're doing in the office would give you more time to kind of do that development. Internally, I participate in something Dinsmore we refer to as Leadership Academy, and it's a chance for our newest attorneys to learn from more senior attorneys. And we only meet maybe once a quarter in person together, and we have sessions for them, teach them things about work and life. So, here's how you bill your time, and here's how to buy a house. Kind of a little bit of fulfill you more as a lawyer, and then show you how to be a lawyer outside. And we don't get to do those as often. It used to be more frequently. I love going to those. I love meeting and training the new attorneys and kind of just getting together with my colleagues and comparing stories about different work we've been doing, different transactions that we've been on, because it is a way that you kind of grow and see what maybe you want to develop in yourself that your peers are developing. And I don't think attorneys in general, because I don't know many other firms that do as frequent events as I think Dinsmore does, but I think just in general, we, especially nowadays, miss out on that connection with our peers. A lot of people work from home. A lot of people, Dinsmore is nationwide. I work with people in Ohio, in Kentucky, in Detroit. I go to Ohio more often than I really want to, but it's always at least that I get to see some people that I like from work and meet new contacts, new clients, see new things.
That's fascinating and makes total sense. Just really quickly, one thing you brought up the fact that you enjoy helping businesses to connect with one another. Are you and we've experienced this at Blue Fox Labs, where you'll have another company that that might have a potential synergistic partnership opportunity with Blue Fox Labs, and so you guys kind of are the eHarmony service of bringing together businesses to see if there's a potential match made in heaven, right? And we've loved that. I've always wondered, do you all love doing that, right? Or is this something that you just feel like, well, it helps our business, so we have to do it? Or is this something where you're like, man, I love this matchmaking thing?
Absolutely, we love it. That's one of, I always think attorneys can go one of two ways. They can take on more of the like order taking role. You tell me what you need, I do it, and I give it to you, and then I wait for you to come back to me. Or more of a kind of advisory consulting role as well, where I will help you with your legal work, but we want to see you succeed. Like we think your business idea is great, and we want to see how we can help you expand in the future. It's going to help everyone. If you guys blow up and become a giant, huge company, I'm going to have more work to do for you. And you'll be able to help introduce us to other people. So it makes sense for us to want to introduce synergies where we see them. And that's something that in the Pittsburgh office, in our transactional group, what we focus on too with our clients is helping them build what we usually refer to as our advisory network. So when we have a client come in and they were maybe a small startup and they have gotten much larger, they usually have advisors from that small startup stage, which there's nothing wrong with. But once you get to a certain level, you might need a more experienced CPA and not the bookkeeper that you've been using for years. And we don't want to get rid of your bookkeeper, but the more sophisticated work, we might want to refer you to a new advisor to fill into that role. And we've made a lot of synergies that way, where a lot of our clients end up working together because, we work with an insurance broker. So someone needs a new insurance broker, they meet, they love each other, and now it's a 5-year relationship, Well, so I enjoy that part. And I know that my counterparts here in Pittsburgh do that as well. So,
well, I know we've profited from that relationship, that relationship matchmaking quite a bit. The other thing that, because we have such trust in you and we know you have our best interests in mind, and the people that you've matched us with, you already know that there's going to be a good synergy there. Not only between, they not only need an insurance, like let's take the insurance example you just mentioned, that they don't just need an insurance broker or insurance rep or something like that, but it's the type of people they are match very well with the type of people we are, and we've found that to be incredibly beneficial as we continue to grow. Yeah. I was gonna say it's been wonderful being able to realize that, and
Yeah. So I just want to give a funny illustration there. And Brian, I didn't know if you were done with your thought, so that's why I was waiting. But turns out you were.
I am done with
In
my thought.
in Korean culture, and I guess it's different nowadays as things are getting more or just different. I guess as cultures are changing. But when I was growing up, and obviously there was no internet when I was growing up, and there's no eHarmony and Match.com and all these different things now. Um, the reality in Korean culture is that they say that it's not a couple that joins together, two people, it's two families joining together. And that's the saying in maybe just in general Asian culture. I think most Asian cultures like this. And so, the idea in America where like two people fall in love and then they just decide to get married and then tell their parents kind of later, that is like unthinkable, at least old Asian culture. It's that your parents are usually the ones that are introducing their kid to the other family that they already know. And so the kids kind of get matched by these two parents that know each other very well. And so I say all this to say that Dinsmore is kind of like our business parent, and that you have a lot of kids. And and this is not like incestuous or anything like that, but you're kind of matching your kids together, and it really helps. From like, there's a reason why thousands of years this is how at least Koreans did it. From a business standpoint, it really helps because these are not just cold matches. They're very, very well thought out. So I just wanted to bring out that illustration for any of our Asian listeners or those that respect Asian culture, which I
Yeah,
hope is
I mean,
everybody.
I'm a big proponent in it takes a village, it takes a community. So in all areas of life, like, you're not going to succeed as well on your own as you would with a community of trusted people around you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we are developing our community, and once you're part of that, why wouldn't we want to introduce you to the rest of our community?
Absolutely. Rachel, are you still there?
Yeah, I just got slightly kicked off, but I think I'm back.
All right, you're back.
All good.
See, this is live, everyone. This is truly live.
All right. So Rachel kind of talked a little bit more about the general overview of your business and what you guys do. And then for the last 10, 15 minutes or so, we've been talking about different problems and opportunities. We've come to 4, and I think this is always like a really good spot for us to work towards when we're doing these kinds of sessions. We want to think about, hey, what are 2 really big kind of bottlenecks or pain points you experience, or as you call things you hate? We also want to find 2 things that are things we could possibly accentuate, that are, hey, I really love this part of my job, or I really think that this is an important thing that we do for the company. There are these really critical moments, and maybe it's, meeting people, maybe it's maintaining a relationship, whatever it is. And we want to think about different kinds of solutions that we could use to supercharge those aspects. So we've kind of come to our critical 4. We have 2 major pain points. We have 2 major opportunities. The 2 pain points you mentioned were, first of all, kind of going through these really detailed statements that business owners provide, and doing the kind of necessary background research to determine whether or not these are quote unquote true. I think that there's probably a couple other things that would maybe fall into this category of creating solutions that would sort of sift through information and kind of do some of that preliminary background research. That's pain point number 1. The second one was around generating specific industry specific knowledge for you guys so that you can go into conversations more informed. The opportunities that you laid out were, first of all, around number 1, developing and maintaining kind of client relationships with a kind of knowledge database so that you can basically bring more specific knowledge to the table when you're doing kind of networking things with particular clients. And the second opportunity was more around just allowing you guys to do more of the kind of key relationship building that you feel like is really necessary, just by freeing up more time by automating certain things you don't like to do. Totally valid. I see that last opportunity as really, and actually maybe a good point to pause to make sure that I've kind of got all this right? Or Brian, Joe, do you guys feel like this is an accurate kind of summary of the different problems and opportunities in front of us?
I think you got it right, Rachel
Yeah, I
and
think
Brian.
you did a good job of capturing all that.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Rachel.
And Rachel is nodding yes right now, just for our listeners.
Rachel, I think it would be a good idea now for us to kind of walk through what you feel like which of these do you feel like has the most opportunity in terms of, we invest so much time into this, or we put so much resources into this, or gosh, this is such a liability because if we get this wrong, it's very problematic for us. I kind of want to do a really quick analysis of these 4 problems and opportunities and think about, where are we really investing a lot so that we can kind of prioritize 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you want to work on?
Mm-hmm. So I think probably the biggest area is kind of that data management of reviewing. I can't remember how the first one that you so nicely summarized from just my stream of conscious thought of helping summarize and review data and documents and statements and help parsing it down to something that is easily to understand, especially for someone without the legal knowledge.
Yeah.
The biggest barrier in an everyday person being able to be their own lawyer from a contract perspective. I don't go to court. I can't talk about that stuff, but is legalese, right? You have all of this language that is just archaic. I had a client once refer to it. She's like, can we get away from like being knights at the round table and can you just write this in plain English? So being able to parse the data and the information we get that might be in legalese down to something understandable to the client, and also just the massive amount of data, being able to kind of bring that into a nice kind of summarized package.
We could translate it maybe into not just like a plain English, but we could make it sound like Snoop Dogg or any other celebrity if you would like it to come out in any particular way.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg. Okay, Snoop Dogg. That's the first thing that came to your mind?
Man, this is a whack contract. Yes, that's the information I need. They can speak your language. So, okay. But I totally hear you on that. Let's kind of flesh out. I mean, you kind of seem to jump at this opportunity. Like usually what we'd like to do is kind of flesh out like each of the different 4 and think about, okay, very strategically speaking, which of these is, maybe the best direction to go down, kind of weighing the pros and cons of each. How strongly do you feel that this number 1 is really probably the opportunity that's the most high ROI?
The reason I think it is because especially the 2, not the pain points, the 2 other things that I've discussed, the relationship building and the having more time to kind of work on development, all of that comes down to saving time and being more efficient. And that kind of data parsing aspect, I think, is the biggest time saver. Like, I think that would help move what we do forward in a way that it is more efficient and more expeditious, and just getting to that end deliverable, that end conversation with a client faster. And saving any time would help build out the other things. Although I'm sure there are AI solutions to also help with that. I think it all comes down to time management and efficiency.
Got it. Rachel, can you help us understand the scope of this problem? Like, how many man hours are put into this, let's say in your office, like every week or day even?
So I think maybe easier to talk about it from a transactional perspective. So if you're working on, because this all comes down to the term used at our disclosure schedules. So you have in a purchase agreement, reps and warranties that say these are true. And if they're not, you add a disclosure to the schedules. And all of that information comes from the data room we have of all of the client's information that they've collected over the transaction. And then we have to explain it to the client and make sure they agree with everything. So I kind of lost my train of thought on what was the original question.
Well, we want to try to understand the scope of the problem, right?
Oh,
Like, so you're saying
timing.
this
Yeah.
is, yeah, yeah.
So to go through the data room and initially understand enough of the contracts and everything else to get to the stage that we're talking to the client about it, you're talking 2 to 3 associates, um, probably 5 to 10 hours a piece.
Over how long?
Then, so that would be for the initial review to get initial kind of idea of what's going to go into the disclosure schedules, what information we have, and then probably an hour to 2 hours of prepping for the 3 hour meeting with the client to go through everything. And then from there, it's just subsequent revisions and follow up and revisions and follow up. And usually the client doesn't have the appetite to go through that full 3 hour meeting in one sitting.
Mhm.
So oftentimes we'll do 2.5 hours and then we'll end up with another 2 hours. And then maybe there's another meeting with the opposing counsel that they want to go through the same questions again. And that's going to be another 3 hour meeting. So so if I put 100 hours into a transaction, I'd say a quarter of that is me working on reviewing that data and making sure all of that data is in the appropriate places, the disclosure schedules are accurate, the purchase price or the purchase agreement has the correct information in it from the business owner.
Got it. So thank you. That's a really useful metric. So out of 100 hours, 25% is doing this kind of super tedious data review.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of your job is that? Or let's say, like, what percentage of the appropriate associate's job is that? We're just trying to understand the scope again.
Yeah, and that's again is a hard question because it depends on the scope of that transaction. So at any given time, I might be working on 2 or 3 transactions, but then also various other projects for other clients that are maybe a smaller gauge. So in a year, oh man, I don't even know. I might do. I might assist in some way probably on I could estimate maybe 10 to 15 deals a year. Maybe not the full scope of it, but still getting in there, touching documents, reviewing information. And it changes as we progress as being a lawyer in a firm. So
Yeah.
As it's more of that starts at the first level, and like as you go up, you delegate it to someone else, and you start working on a different aspect of the job.
Can I just jump in really quick, Pete? Because I don't know if you're looking at time. Because typically AI Dream sessions are 2 days long, and we're trying to do this. We're almost hitting up on an hour right now, and I'm already feeling like I want to hear some solutions, and I'm guessing our listeners are thinking I want to start hearing some solutions. So just wondering, Pete, if we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I just really quick want to understand the scope, but I think you're totally right, Joe. And so my thought is that with a good understanding of the scope now, thank you for that, Rachel. It sounds to me like this is going to take, maybe, I mean, a substantial amount of time is going to take to do all this work. And that's like the work that you do, I mean. And so a solution would give you a tremendous amount of hours of your year back.
Yeah.
So, with that understanding in mind, and not just for you, but for many of the other associates as well. So, with that understanding in mind, maybe this would be a good time to start fleshing out like what a solution for this would potentially look like. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about the particular, like, just 2 or 3 minutes, like, what does it look like when you are trying to do this kind of tedious cleaning? And I think Brian is our technologist. We'll probably have some good questions here around like what are the particular technology touch points to use?
Pete, can I just intervene and talk about this as I don't think, from all that I've heard, I don't think what Rachel is really saying holistically is that, hey, the scope is big. We've got to cut down this work. That's the most important thing. I think what she's saying is that, and I'm bringing in some bias of just my thought on the legal profession, and bias in a good way, or I don't know if bias is the right word, but preconceived thoughts. is that the most important thing to her is protecting and building the relationships with her customers, right? And so even things like, I think the fact that you have those 3-hour meetings, that's an artifact of there's no other way to do it, right? You hate it, they hate it, you end up walking away from that 3 hours, everybody's angry, right? But there's no other way. But if there was another way, you would do it a different way, and the customer would want you to do it a different way. So it's not necessarily about cutting that 3-hour meeting down to a 2-hour meeting, right? And reducing time. It's about, can we do this differently that builds better relationships with our customers, and also does the thing that you're actually interested in doing, which is to build relationships versus all the tedious work. So I just wanted to throw that out there, just check on that, because I think we're talking a lot about, how much logistical work is there and how can we reduce that. I don't think that at least from what I'm hearing, that's actually not the point. The point is, how can we help to build relationships? And some of that will come through the pathway of reducing the tedious work, not just on your part, but on the customer's part. So do I have that fairly in the right ballpark at all?
Yeah, I think you took what I said and summarized it in a verse way that makes it make more sense.
Okay.
Because I was saying the time saving helps build the relationships, and you're right. So that's really the important part, is how do we build and maintain these relationships in a better way, and having a solution to something that no one really enjoys doing would help that relationship.
Yeah, totally.
So it makes the quality of time spent together with the client better. There were a couple things that I noticed as we went through this discovery, and I just wanted to point out, it's kind of unique in terms of just this field, in the legal field, is unlike things like accounting, and this is very soft data. I'm going to just use the word soft data as opposed to hard data, where in accounting you have numbers, you have patterns, you have, it's very statistical. You can apply hard algorithms to it. This is going to be more soft, fuzzy. It's very contextual, and it's going to be in the format of what we call unstructured data. There's structured data, which is rows and columns. You can think of a legacy database type thing. You have semi-structured, where it's comma delimited or in an Excel file, things like that. And then you have unstructured data. And this is things that are like free-flowing text or audio or video. And it seems to me that this fits more into that unstructured data classification. The one question I had for you, Rachel, is when you're reviewing all these documents, how are you receiving these documents? Are they scanned in, and are you reviewing them electronically? Are these hard documents that you're just getting file boxes of, that you're going through and reading through these documents? Can you go into a little bit about that?
Yeah, luckily the days of boxes of documents are going away. Not saying we haven't had that, but we do everything pretty much electronically. So if I do get a box of documents, somebody's scanning those in.
The first thing you do is scan them in.
Yeah, so we create a data room. So it's a fancier version of Dropbox. It is a repository for documents, and we organize them in a specific way, but it's a repository where they can put in as many documents as they have, but we can exchange information. We all know that email nowadays does not work well with massive amounts of files, so that's our easiest solution. So there's always, in a transaction, there's always going to be a virtual data room.
And when you're getting these documents, are they mainly scanned documents, or are they, Microsoft Word, or are they PDF, or what format do they come in?
It's definitely a variety. So some stuff we are asking for is more of that hard data, and they'll come in Excel spreadsheets.
Okay.
But most of the time it's going to be a scanned in PDF. Now with more of the usage of electronic signatures, we'll sometimes get contracts that are like
DocuSign.
A DocuSign, nice clean PDF that's easy to search in.
That's very easy to use.
Other times, again, it's that ancient scan that's on brittle paper.
Okay.
So I don't know how deep we want to go technically, and I don't know if that'll be helpful for the listeners, but I want to throw out an idea just as a conceptual and strategic thought that I've been having towards the latter half of this whole conversation, which is simply, And I want to go back to that 3-hour meeting that both sides hate, because I just can't stop thinking about that. So I believe you do that because, first of all, everybody's busy. So you have to create some date and time that you say, I want your full attention. You get together, and then you said both sides are just like, you're translating documents that don't make sense to the layperson, and then that person feels like you're asking the same question over and over again. Bad experience. So just throwing this out there, this doesn't exist today that I know of for the legal profession, but it seems like what's needed in the profession is some kind of technology that checks in with the business person every day and multiple times during the day, and that maybe even checks in with you, Rachel, in a way where each interaction, and it could be chatbot, it could be, you're doing a voice bot, where you're talking to it and it's talking to you. I mean, same concept, right? Chatbot, but it's asking you two types of questions. One, it's asking you a business question, and maybe this should start before a company is even looking to be acquired. And this is part of the data room concept, because I got to be honest, the data room concept, it makes sense, but I know that I have stopped sending things to the data room just because I forget. I just get too busy, right? Rather, having something that's constantly asking me every day from Dinsmore, that asks me, tell us a little bit about this aspect of your business, and what it's doing is it's translating something very, very legalese that it needs information about, but it's summarizing it and asking me a question where I'm just like, oh, easy, I'll answer that question, right? But also, it's sending me something that's interesting about Rachel Pressdee. Okay, so it's kind of doing both things. And then when you're doing a same interaction on your side, where you're telling it questions that you need to be asked to the customer, right? That needs to be translated and asked them. But then you're also getting information about Joe Yoon. And you could even ask questions about Joe Yoon. And the reason I say this is because what could, and I think should and will end up happening over time, is that you'll get a lot of the information that you try to get in that 3-hour call, but you'll just get it over time, which is better for everybody, right? You'll probably get better answers because it's a bit asynchronous. It's not going to be a repeat of questions too often, because once you get what you need, then you're not going to ask for the same thing again the next time. And so I just wanted to throw that idea out there and see if it resonates. I'm not saying it exists out there right now, but I can already in my head think about all the AI pieces that could work to create something like this. But at the end of the day, it brings you more closely together personally, and then it also reduces a lot of this logistical burden and annoyance. So any thoughts on that, Rachel?
Yeah, this is why you're so smart. Because
Not really.
You hit on two things I think that are important. For one, that concept in general sounds great. The important thing I think to take from it, though, is that business owners should be planning now. Because one day you are going to sell your business, buy a business, transition your business in some way. So the more proactive you are throughout the whole engagement with your attorney, so if that was a feature that we had, then the more fulsome that data room is going to be and the information I have about the company. So when it does come time to do this transaction, it's less painful.
Yes.
I don't have to have the 3-hour call. It's more of just a check-in call of like, hey, did you give me everything on this over the years? Or we're missing something here, or you didn't give me anything these 6 months. Was there any changes? That would be an awesome tool for our long relationship clients. Unfortunately, there are some that only come when they get an offer in their hand and you know nothing about their business. And then you've got to have the 3-hour call.
Sure.
But that kind of integration, I think is an excellent idea. And that's something that, my practice group here in Pittsburgh, we focus on is this kind of business owner transition planning, sometimes referred to as growth and exit planning, which I don't really like that because you're not always exiting. And I don't want you to think about exiting your business when you're at your growth stage, but it's figuring out how to make sure your business is run the best the whole way and that you're keeping records that you need. I did a transaction last year, multi-million-dollar company, brilliant people. Be like, hey, I need these contracts. And they said to me, oh, we don't keep paper, we just throw it away.
Wow.
I was like, but we need to know.
Wow.
So not everyone has that mindset. You start a business and like, what are you focused on? Like, what are you guys focused on right now? You're focused on growth. You're focused on what's the next step. But having that kind of integrated AI legal feature that's having your attorney help talk to you on a, once a week, every day, whatever basis of, hey, what's going on? Like, did you guys do anything? Do you have any new contracts that need uploaded to the data room? Even the customers I work with, where I review contracts for them with their customers, their clients, I rarely end up with the final signed document. They get my last round of revisions. They're happy. They sign it. They throw it through DocuSign, and I never see it again. And then I'm like, I need copies of those guys. So having, someone to basically an AI tool that reminds you without me having to email you once a week and be like, hey, did you sign anything this week? You need anything? Where are your new financials? I think that would solve a lot of things.
Yeah, and this totally makes sense to me, Rachel. And I want to just mention two comments in addition to this. One is, I've looked a little bit at this product called Harvey AI, which is legal software for AI software for the law legal industry, and it's cool. Now, I didn't buy it because I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, I looked at the things that it says it can do. One of our colleagues, Adi, who heads up all of our projects, he found this other site that I forget the name of that is supposed to be even more cutting edge with AI. And I looked at all of that stuff and I said to myself, okay, basically what this software does is you can take a lot of your legal documentation, you can put it in there, you can ask questions against it. I mean, it sounds very generative AI kind of forward. It can check with certain legal databases to make sure if the language fits and all this stuff. Okay, that's great, right? And that software is only going to get better, and that's going to move forward, right?
Mhm.
But that doesn't help at all with the core of what your profession actually is, which is the relationship. It is the trust building. Because at the end of the day, think about how hard it is for us to sell our house, right? I mean, even we kind of interview buyers even for our house, even though it's just like this physical thing. Why? Because it has some meaning to us. Or sometimes people with cars, even they're like, oh, this is my baby. I'm selling my
Mhm.
baby to you, right? Well, think about a business that somebody has built up, right? And they're thinking about selling that business. I mean, they're really concerned about the personal aspect of this whole transaction, right? And so that makes me think that long term, the most important usage of AI for somebody that's like a business lawyer, and I'm guessing any type of lawyer, is how does this thing help you gain a better relationship, better trust with the other party, your clients, right? And so that's for me much more important than. And I'm not trying to discount Harvey AI and these things. I'm just saying that those tools are needed, and they will be great, and they need to progress. But if you think about it, once those tools become really good, then what are the people law firms for, right? Well, they're actually for what we're talking about right now, and you can't actually take that away. I am never going to take a robo lawyer in the future to handle the sale and acquisition of Blue Fox Labs, no matter how advanced AI gets, right? So this isn't just like a moral or ethical consideration. This is real business, right?
Mhm.
And this is really important with regards to the business. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And the second thought I had was I'm in this process of buying a Tesla right now, or I guess I may be leasing a Tesla. It depends on what I decide. But anyways, um, the Tesla app, it's the weirdest thing. Buying a car and everything is technology. Like you have to buy the car through the app. It's just very bizarre to me. But it's also very cool because I'm tech forward. And one of the things that they do better than any other company, car company that I've seen, is that they're definitely using AI to create this running chat history with me where I'm chatting with this AI, but it's clear to me that sometimes the answer is coming from a real person that I don't know the name of, but sometimes the answer is coming from the AI. I can't tell the difference. I don't like that I can't tell the difference. So that's the negative thing. But the positive thing is it's got this history from the beginning to the end, that both sides can see, and it gives context. And I think that's another thing that is really important, I think, with regards to working with a business, is that if you could have this long history, this paper trail that's more than just that data room, that helps both sides so much. and it helps both sides focus on the relationship rather than asking for the same thing again 5 years later that you had asked for 5 years ago, right? And so it really resonates with me as a business owner thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea. So are you going to start working on it?
I don't know. Maybe we should.
Just talked ourselves into it.
And Pete and Brian, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I don't know if we've got time, Brian, to deep into the deep technical part of this, but I think it's totally doable thinking about the technology right now.
I think the technology, and I've always said this before, it's the business problem first. It's the idea of the solution. The technology piece of it's always easy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the easy part of all of this. So being able to actually build out a system like this is, to me, it's the easy part.
Yeah.
But coming up with the idea and parsing through it, that's always been the challenge for me. That's the most difficult part is distilling that business problem down into its core essence and coming up with an elegant solution that is not only easy on the users, users plural, because on this side you have two sides of users, but it's also useful and it brings value. So no, I love this. I love where this session has gone, and the technology side, the actual building out of it, I think would be not from a time perspective easy, but from a coming up with an architecture and figuring out actually how to achieve this, I can already envision how to do that. Yeah.
Brian, what would the scope of that tech development look like, really quickly?
Well, I think that there's a couple things. I think what we're starting to see when we start addressing any solutions now is we're seeing a shift from going from everything being centered around kind of the software of the application to now everything is centered around the data. The data is what's important. And so finding a way that we can collect and store and access that data is probably the core of what we would develop first. What would be the most effective way? Is it simply a SQL database? Is it a document repository, like Dropbox or something like that? And trying to go with the easiest solution there. Is it something like a modern data platform that can take both, that can accommodate structured, unstructured, semi-structured, all the data, so we can access all of that in one place. So I think that's where you start, is how do you manage the data? The second part is then how do you overlay, what type of technologies do you want to overlay it? It's kind of that middleware piece. So are these types of things that we're going to want to run machine learning on, that there are patterns that we want to look at? Rachel mentioned, most of it, we were talking about contracts, but then she also mentioned that there is some hard data in there that comes in the form of Excel spreadsheets. And I'm sure that there's some financial information that you guys review as well. So is there a machine learning component? What kind of requirements around that machine learning do we need? How do we deal with that data and start extracting contextual information from that data? And is that a generative AI thing, or is it just simple sentiment analysis? What kind of processing do we need to do there? And then thirdly, the last piece of it is, what is that user interface going to be? Yeah. What is the interaction? What is the touch point between the end user and those processing mechanisms? So is it a chat bot? Is it a web page? Is it maybe a phone conversation with a virtual agent? Is it, I don't know. Is it a mobile app? It could be so many different touch points, or maybe it's a combination of multiple of those. But that's that third layer where we kind of have to go into what makes the most sense from a user perspective that makes it easy and accessible for those users to use. So that's where I would start to go next, is diving into each of those three layers.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense.
If I could just add on top of that, because this is exactly what I was thinking with what Brian said. That last layer, I was thinking, should it be something? Let's just call this Jarvis, okay? Let's like Iron Man, okay? should Jarvis be Rachel? Or should Jarvis be Jarvis? And what do I mean by that? I mean, you could make something that kind of pretends like it's Rachel. It's kind of like the Tesla app. Like it's like all just one entity, and you don't know if it's a person or whatever. And I don't like that, right? And
Yeah.
it can make this stuff definitely can make mistakes, right? So it shouldn't be Rachel. Rachel should be Rachel, and this Jarvis should just be representing Rachel at times, right? But Jarvis should be Jarvis, and I'm wondering, like, how cool would that be if Dinsmore had this virtual employee that has unlimited capacity, right?
Call it Denny.
And has a name, right? yeah. And Dinsmore, Dinny. So, and Dinny is interacting with you daily in the way that you want to interact with Dinny, right? So if you want a mobile app, you get a mobile app. It's like Oprah, right? Everybody gets a mobile app if you want a mobile app. Or if you want a chatbot, if you want it to be voice, but you need to interact with Dinny, and Dinny's going to interact with you every day. But Dinny's teaching you about Rachel, and Dinny's teaching Rachel about you, and I think that would be so powerful. And again, this is not pie in the sky 20 years from now. There's technologies out there right now that could do it today.
Well, and there's a crazy perspective of this that it could even be a Zoom call, and you can be interacting with a
Dinny.
Dinny can be an avatar that interacts with you real time. So you could have a weekly or daily Zoom session with Dinny and just talk to Dinny just like any other Zoom meeting you have. And yeah. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to throw out how far things have started to come.
Yeah.
So
I also really like the name Dinny because it kind of sounds like when the AI tool wouldn't be being used, like in his free time, he'd just be like down at the train tracks kicking rocks, like just like contemplating life. Like, man, Denny's at the train tracks again. He's really going through it.
He needs more work.
He needs more work. Damn.
And from a law firm perspective of like why they would want, for all the other reasons, but why they would want something like Dinny, I mean, cross-selling across the law firm.
Yeah.
So maybe Dinny's teaching you about me, but also about Dinsmore. So it can ask questions. Have you started looking into trademarking? And then it can tag me to say, hey, you should introduce them to your trademark partner and talk to them about that, because that's a part of that's something that I think law firms always try to make sure that the attorneys know how to do is cross-sell services, because we are a full service law firm. We can do everything. I just do business law, but we have everything else you can imagine, and people don't realize that. So that's another selling point from a law firm perspective, is it can be teaching about your lawyer, but also about the firm.
All right, so I just got to throw this in there. I know we're getting close to time, but I have a buddy that owns multiple Taco Bells, and he has kiosks now.
I can't wait to see how Taco Bell.
This fits
Okay.
so well. Okay, so he has all these new kiosks, and so he was asking me, "Hey, do you know why we do kiosks?" And I said, "Yeah, because it's freaking cool, all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, but maybe it also allows you to, have less people at the front so they can focus on making." And he said, "Yes to all that, but that's not the real reason. The real reason we have kiosks is because no matter how good an employee is, people will forget to upsell items, and a kiosk will never forget." And so when these fast food places put in kiosks, their sales skyrocket because the kiosks will always upsell. It'll always say, "Did you forget to add this? Have you thought about this? There's a deal on this," right? And so it's right in line with what you're saying, is that most of the reason why people don't upsell is they don't have time. And they're just in it with regards to just how much is going on. Whereas Dinny has unlimited time. He can spend as much time as you want with regards to providing you thoughts on different services that you could that a customer could consider, right? And so I just want to say that there's a real precedent for that right now in the fast food industry with regards to, that's why they have these technologies installed.
That's interesting. The last time I used a kiosk, I got upsold.
Yeah, you will always get upsold.
Well, I mean, like, no, it worked. Like,
it works for me too.
Damn, they got me.
That's how Joe got. That's why Joe's buying a Tesla. He got upsold on everything.
Joe just wanted a Big Mac.
Yeah,
he got upsold at Taco Bell.
They have a partnership with Tesla. You want a burrito and a Model Y? Yes, I do.
God damn, I do want a Model Y. Awesome.
The other thing I wanted to point out though is something that a newer concept with all of these chatbots is governance and putting guardrails around what it's allowed to talk about and what it's not allowed to talk about. I think that's going to be very important when it comes to
architecture.
Well, and also just in this field, in the legal field.
Oh, yes, right.
Denny is not a lawyer.
Yes.
Denny should not give legal advice. You know, like this is not, you know, it's purely meant for data collection and information gathering, context gathering, things like that. And being able to put those guardrails in place and enforcing those guardrails, I think would be a very important aspect of this. I'm sure and we've dealt with other clients as well that have compliance concerns, and I think that's been a big roadblock for those clients in adapting generative AI because they're worried about one, hallucinations, and two, a lot of compliance requires explainability. So having guardrails in place and being able to address those concerns, I think, is also another huge aspect of development of this solution.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sorry, but confidentiality is always the concern, I think, when you bring AI into the legal world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's all I was thinking of, but not even thinking of, Denny turning into Ultron and wanting to tell us what to do and stuff like that. But, that's, I guess, also a concern.
Right.
Yeah. And then the last thing I was going to say about all of this is from an evaluation standpoint, like once we have a really good understanding of the product, the business need that it's addressing, how it like users are going to interface with it. We'd probably also want to, unpack a little bit of change management just so like it's a smooth transition into, people feel comfortable with it. They understand it, preferably their stakeholders in the technology so that they feel like really incentivized. Like, the more that I use this, the better it's going to be for me. Like the easier my job's going to be, the more I'm going to do some of these things like you were saying, Rachel, that you really get to love to do, et cetera. We also want to evaluate it. Like we want to create a framework so that we make sure that number one, like it is being used, like in the ways that we think it's being used. Like Denny isn't spending all his time down at the train tracks. He's allowed to spend some time there, but all right, whatever. That was a way better joke. Whatever. No one laughed at that joke. You guys suck.
Well, I wanted you to keep talking. I wanted you to keep talking.
I'm waiting.
I was holding my
laughter.
laughter.
I'm done joking. Forget it. But we want to provide that evaluation framework to make sure that it's having kind of its intended behavioral effects, that people feel comfortable with it, and that they're actually translating into what you think it's translating into in terms of your business outcomes. So really great if it can offload a lot of this work from you guys and automate kind of this process of, curating and collecting these relationship histories for you guys. But if it doesn't translate into you building better relationships with clients, being able to form more relationships with clients, or just feeling better about, like, there's a lot of behavioral outcomes that we would probably want to look for here, right?
Yep.
We might want to look at, the number of relationships that you're able to start up, Rachel, the number of business transactions that you guys are able to put through because of this technology. We also might want to look at things like the quality of, the work that you guys are doing. The idea being that, the more this gets implemented, the better kind of quality kind of work comes out of the relationships that you are building. And we'd also probably want to track some kind of metrics around just the satisfaction you guys have with your job, right? There's a lot of research that suggests that work satisfaction will produce like better downstream outcomes for the company and for you. And so these are all kinds of evaluation considerations that we would want to bring to the table so that when we implement something, we're making sure that we're tracking it, it's working the way it's intended, and you guys are getting bang for your buck out of this thing.
Love it.
I want to +1 that because as a technologist, I hear change management. I automatically go to technical change management and firewall rules and network upgrades and stuff like that. But what Pete's really talking about is organizational change management and how that's such an undervalued piece of any solution that gets deployed within an organization, and making sure that it's not only you drive adoption, but also that solution, it could be the greatest solution in the world, but if you're not driving adoption and measuring value, is it the best return on investment? So yeah, Pete, that's a huge part of, I think, an undervalued piece of what a lot of companies do.
Awesome. Well, we're almost at the hour and a half mark, which is very Lex Friedman level length, which he's one of my favorite podcasters out there. So I'm honored to be able to do an episode that is at his length consideration. With that said, so any final thoughts or considerations you'd like to add as we wrap up, Rachel? And we also want you to throw out, any contact information you'd like to give out if people would like to contact Dinsmore and eventually Dinny at some point in the future. But any final thoughts, considerations, and then just tell us how people can get in contact with you all.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much. I understand why you do these dream sessions, because we got somewhere where I wasn't planning from the beginning. Like, I mean, not that I had really planned. I was just here to talk and see what develops. Yeah. But yeah, I just thank you guys. This was also just really insightful from my perspective as well. For contact, our website is dinsmore.com. Again, my name is Rachel Pressdee. Look it up because it's hard to spell, but it's not really. It's press a button and DEE. But my email is rachel.pressdee@dinsmore.com. You can get all of our contact information online. I'm on LinkedIn, everywhere else you can find me. But yeah.
Better yet, we can provide links for those things.
That would be great too.
Yes, we'll put those in our show notes and
we'll
sure
make things easy for people.
That it's all included. All right. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for excuse me. Thank you so much for being our first guest in this kind of podcast AI dream session, real-time AI dream session, I guess we can call it. And again, we're Blue Fox Labs. I'm Dr. Joe. We had Brian Pasquini, our chief technologist, and Pete Ondish, our chief scientist on. And we are looking to do more of these. So hopefully we'd love to hear feedback from any of our listeners. If you have any thoughts as to how to improve these sessions for your sake, and anything else that you'd be interested in. So
if you're interested in one of these sessions,
go ahead, Pete.
If you're interested in one of these sessions, you can reach out to us at hello@bluefoxlabs.ai.
Excellent. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. We're coming up on the holidays, so actually, I don't know when this will be posted, but if it's posted before, happy holidays. If it's posted after, hope you had a great holidays. And thank you so much for your time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.